this Tablet Pro. It's a hybrid between a tablet and a laptop. So the keyboard easily disconnects, just snaps off. And as you can see, automatically it'll register. It'll ask you, do you want to switch to tablet mode? Once you say yes, some features will change, just like having the keyboard on screen. And it's very easy to just snap back right into place. So you can adjust this at any angle, really, which makes it convenient for working from any position. Right here you have the port to charge, one USB port, which I use for my wireless mouse, and a port to plug in the tablet with an external monitor. Right here you have the power button, as well as the volume. And we both have a front camera and microphone, as well as a rear camera and microphone. So this tablet battery will last for about 8 hours, and it has 8 gigabytes of RAM. It has an i5 processor, which runs at 7,300, and it has 2.6 gigahertz, a dual core. So what makes this most convenient is you can work away from home or anywhere you want by adding a SIM card with this LTE data option. So in general, this tablet is very convenient to use and very easy to use. So if you're interested in getting one, go ahead and get one right here.
This is the 2020 MacBook Pro, 13-inch, 8 GB RAM, 256 gigabytes. So the good thing about Apple, especially their laptops, is that their laptops last you a very long amount of time. So I got this one in 2020, and I've had it for about 3 years now and not a single issue with it whatsoever. And the other thing is with these laptops, they're 13 inches. And that's actually very good for me, especially because I travel a lot with this one. And it's easy to put it in a backpack. No issues with that whatsoever. Very light as well. Perfect for traveling, perfect for working on the go. And it's also a very nice design, very sleek design over here. Closes very nice. Very minimalistic as well, which is exactly what I wanted from a laptop. You have two USB-C ports right here. This is for the charger as well. Take a look at the bottom of it. And this is also a very, very powerful laptop as well. I get a lot of work done with this one and no issues whatsoever. Now, sometimes people might tend to go for the 16 GB RAM. That's purely on how much work you're looking to do with it. If you're looking to do very heavy work on it, or for someone who maybe has a lot of applications open at once. I have a lot of applications open, but I've seen no issues with 8 GB RAM. But take that into account when you're purchasing these laptops. But the best thing is about all these are the MacBooks, whether you're going for a Pro or an Air, they would last you a very good amount of time. So it's for sure worth the investment.
We're going over this Razer Blade laptop. I use it personally for traveling. This is the only time I use it. Anytime I need to be mobile, so I'll take it with me to school, coffee shops, etc. It's a side view of the ports that it has, and it's still running good for me about a year later, and the battery life is doing just as good as well. It's not the lightest PC ever, but it's no problem just to throw it in your book sack, especially for the amount of power that it has.
Today we're going to be reviewing the Blade 14, so here it is, a tiny little 14-inch powerhouse. I bought the eye-watering expensive mid-range 3070 model with QHD screen, but it's also available in a 3060 with 1080p screen and 3080 again with the QHD screen. Now, as all of these GPUs are limited to 100 watts and the 1080p panel is quite slow compared to the QHD, I think this 3070 with QHD panel is the best option for most people. Looking around the laptop, it just looks like the previous Razer blades we've been seeing since the introduction of the Blade 15. But when you pick one up in person, you realise just how tiny this is, making me feel like I've got a Razer Blade Stealth replacement in my hand instead of a full powered laptop. So to put the size into perspective, here it is up against my Razer Blade Stealth and also up against my Razer Blade 15. The lid has the usual lit Razer logo and the laptop still picks up fingerprints like crazy. The blade also feels incredibly solid and really dense, weighing in just under 1.8 kilograms, and it has the usual Razer fit and finish you'd expect for a laptop to go along with this price tag. Port selections are still pretty healthy considering it's a 14-inch laptop, with two USB 3.1s, two USB-Cs, an HDMI 2.1 port, and a headset jack. And you also get the usual Razer Blade power connector. As this is a Ryzen laptop, there is no Thunderbolt ports, so if you need to use an eGPU or a Thunderbolt dock, then you're going to need to look at the Razer Blade 15 or 17 with the Intel CPUs. This laptop is shipped with the same 230W PSU as the Blade 15 and 17, and although this is necessary to drive the high-end components, it's a real shame as it looks absolutely huge against this tiny laptop. You can open the Blade with one hand, and you're going to be treated to the usual fantastic touchpad and beautiful RGB keyboard. The layout of the keyboard is good, and the power button is integrated into the keyboard like it is on the Stealth, but an accidental press will not cause the laptop to go to sleep or turn off, so there's no worries there. The keyboard is per key RGB, but as I don't live in the States, my secondary functions are not lit, and this is something that Razer's been doing for years now, and considering how expensive this is, I think it's a real shame that anybody that lives outside of the United States gets a second-class keyboard. Razer really need to improve the keyboard across the range here, as these are really expensive laptops. Typing on the keyboard is an okay experience, as it is with all Razer blades. And if I could ask Razer to improve one thing with this keyboard, it would actually improve the feel of these laptop keyboards. Either side of the keyboard we get upward firing speakers, and they sound pretty impressive for a 14-inch laptop. Moving up to the screen, we get a gorgeous QHD 165 panel that's incredibly responsive and also looks beautiful. I'm running at 125 DPI, and although the icons are tiny, it's still really easy to use the screen as it's so crisp, and we get an incredible amount of screen real estate. Above the screen we get a webcam. This is a test of the webcam and the microphones on the Razer Blade 14. And we also get Windows Hello, which is incredibly responsive, and as always, my favourite way to log into Windows. But let's get down to business and actually look at the performance. Because Razer have decided to use a Ryzen 7nm CPU in this 14-inch chassis, they've managed to get incredible CPU performance without it throttling like crazy. Razer also decided to include the high-end 5900HX CPU, which to me is an odd choice as this processor is never going to reach its maximum potential in such a small chassis. But even so, it still performs incredibly well for a 14-inch laptop and even beats many 15-inch gaming laptops. The GPUs, as I mentioned earlier, all have 100 watt, which although less than the max wattage allowed by Nvidia, is still impressive for this tiny 14-inch chassis, and a lot higher than its only 14-inch competitor, Asus G14, which we reviewed a few months ago. As always with Razer, you can configure the performance profile through Synapse. The default balance mode throttles back the performance a touch, but allows for a quieter system. I'd recommend this for day-to-day use and some light gaming. But for more configuration options, you need to switch it to custom. From here you can adjust the CPU and the GPU power limits. In all honesty, the GPU section seems a bit pointless to me. I just whack it straight onto the high-powered 100 watt mode, as balance is 90 watts anyway, and that's the only two options you really get. But with regards to the CPU, we have low, medium, high and boost settings. And I'd recommend for most people you stick it into high or boost to get the maximum performance out of this system. Obviously the fans ramp up a lot higher to keep up with the increased temperatures and wattage that we're going to be pushing out in this higher mode. And the CPU can still get up to 100 degrees centigrade. Now although this temperature sounds crazy, these Ryzen CPUs seem to be absolutely fine handling it. And also the Dell Alienware M15R5, which we've also reviewed, regularly hits over 100C in a much larger chassis and cooling solution. Now I can put up with the high temps, and we can adjust the CPU performance or profile to improve the temps, but the biggest gripe I have is how hot the laptop chassis gets. In particular, the palm rest gets incredibly hot on maximum performance, leading to a toasty hand gaming experience. Griping aside, gaming's been absolutely amazing on it, whether I'm gaming on the laptop screen or docked to my 34-inch ultrawide. It feels incredible playing AAA titles comfortably with such a tiny machine. So if you're buying a 14-inch gaming laptop, you are clearly looking for a laptop you can use for day-to-day tasks such as work, web browsing and media consumption as well as gaming, and this laptop really shines here. It's incredibly quiet and idle, and being such a compact 14-inch you can easily throw it in your bag and you'll hardly notice it there. The battery life can also be incredible with a bit of tweaking. I turned off the RGB, I switched it to 60Hz and managed just over 10 hours in our Wi-Fi video streaming test at 50% brightness and 50% speaker volume. If you're looking for a really powerful laptop for work and play, this is an incredible choice. Despite not initially looking to review this machine, I gave in to audience pressure and ordered it. I have you guys to thank for that. It's been an absolutely incredible and fun experience, especially as my personal laptop is a 17-inch beast, the Area 51M R2, and carting that thing around saves me buying a gym membership. Like all laptops, it's not perfect. For starters, there's the price. This is one expensive laptop, but you're paying a fortune to get something that no one else has really made. The G14 is a fair bit cheaper, but it's nowhere near as powerful or as compact as this Blade 14. Also, it does get hot both internally and externally, but this is the price you pay for putting such high-end components into a tiny chassis. So would I recommend it? Yes I would. Thank you for watching.
Let's talk about the ROG Strix Zephyrus G14 laptop for a second. This thing is a beast. Whether it's gaming or editing, this thing can do it all. I bought it on a whim after my MacBook had just conked out. I went to Best Buy and I found this thing after doing way too many hours of looking on my phone at what laptop would be quote unquote the best for what I'm trying to do, which is kind of, I want to be able to edit, I want to be able to game, I want to use it, obviously for lots of applications because I never close my applications. Honestly, the only thing that this thing doesn't have is a little bit bigger screen. Besides that, if you know what you're getting with the 14-inch screen, this thing can do it all. I promise, it's insane. Honestly, this is the best laptop I've ever bought. Never conked out on me. Maybe got a blue screen to death once or twice, but I never had to return it or anything. You just turn it off, turn it back on. So very reliable, all things considered. Feels really good. I'm lifting it with one hand now. Easy flip up. Boom. Touchpad's actually really good. Above average for Windows computers. Not as good as Mac. I've never used a Windows computer that's as good as Mac. The startup's insanely fast. I have not charged this thing for a long time, so it's not going to turn on right now because I actually use another laptop now, but I did use this religiously, and now it's my backup laptop. These are the keys that you're getting. You have some function keys like turn the fan to normal to turbo mode, turn off the mic, turn up the mic, pause and play, display, brighter or less bright display, all the normal keys, keyboard's normal. It's not big enough to have the number keys. yeah, it has everything you want there. I think this model has a fingerprint scanner, which is really awesome. And then for ports, it has a power port. Did I mention, by the way, this thing's super light? I love that about it. It's like the MacBook Air in terms of lightness, sleekness. It's tiny, it feels good. I'm lifting it. Not even that strong, and I'm lifting with one hand. It's got an HDMI, it's got a USB-C, and it's got an 1/8 inch, so all the basics right there. And then obviously you're saying, where's the USBs? Well, it has 2 USB ports. I wish it had 3, but you can get something like this to plug into a USB-C. It has another USB-C, and then this has 3 more USB. Honestly, on my main computer, it has 3 USBs, and I still use another 3, 6, 9 more USB slots, so I had to buy a bigger slot. If you have any sort of big setup of lighting and microphones and music stuff, you're going to need a lot of slots no matter what, so you'll have to buy an extender. So that's not a deal breaker at all. And yeah, this thing is super awesome. It does get a little hot when gaming, but it's never conked out from getting hot. I'd say it gets up to 90 Celsius. Honestly, I can't recommend this laptop enough. This thing is a beast. It's the best. At this price range, it is the best gaming laptop I've ever used, and I've done a ton of research. So hope that helped you make an informed buyer decision. And yeah, thank you.
We're unboxing the Acer Nitro 5. This is an amazing gaming laptop which has got a 10th generation Intel Core i5 processor. The Nitro 5 is packed with incredible power so you can play all your latest games. It comes with an NVIDIA GeForce RTX card and is powered by an award-winning architecture with new ray tracing cores. It does use DirectX 12 for ultimate gaming performance. It's got a full HD screen, which is 144Hz. The connections on the side are USB 3, Type-C, and HDMI 2. So you can instantly visualize your PC's component temperatures, fan speed, load performance, power plant, and more. It's got Acer Cool Boost technology, which increases the fan speed by 10% when you're playing games. It comes with 1 year of international travel warranty, and the battery life on this is around 11 hours.
Okay, so here's the Asus Tough Gaming laptop that I got from Amazon. I had an older version of Asus, so I liked that company, so I decided to get another one, Asus as well. I had this laptop for 2 years. I'm going to open it up for you. Notice it got all the keys there. Nice screen. The keys actually light up. You can change the settings and change different colors. I got this. I'm not a gamer. I edit videos. But yeah, I edit a lot of my YouTube videos on this laptop. It is very efficient. And I was looking for a laptop that works better for video editing, because my other Asus that I had was a little bit older and it would slow down a lot when I had a lot of video footage. This laptop actually has a lot more RAM as well, which I love about it. And it has a lot of good settings in here, and you can really personalize this laptop for your use. You can change the different colors of the keyboard. You can have it light up or strobe or stuff like that, or have it like change light slowly. It's pretty nice laptop here. But yeah, this is a tough gaming laptop, in my honest review. It was a really good investment. Again, I've had it for 2 years and I've had no problems with it.
I think I may have found a really great entry-level AMD Ryzen 5 gaming laptop, so I really hope this turns out to be halfway decent. You see, all this started out because I was hanging out with Enabang from Board at Work, and we were talking about budget AMD Ryzen laptops. And we found this gem, the 2021 HP 14FQ 1021NR laptop. What an awful name. Just rolls off the tongue. Now, despite that crazy name, this does have an AMD Ryzen 5 5500U processor in there, and it has a base clock speed of 2.1 2.1 gigahertz and has a max boost of 4 gigahertz. There's 6 cores and 12 threads, but what's interesting is that this has an integrated AMD Radeon RX Vega 8 built into it that has a 2 gigahertz clock speed and 512 megabytes of memory. It also has 8 gigabytes of RAM and 256 gigabytes of storage, so we're going to need to upgrade this. And at that price, I had to buy it. So while we're here, let's look at the hardware. The keyboard has some really nice travel to it, more than the Apple MacBook Pro, which is kind of hilarious, but to be fair, it doesn't feel sturdy, and that's likely because of all the flexing it can do. That might not be the best thing if you are playing a game on that keyboard and you start raging and just pounding on it. The trackpad is kind of similar. It has a wedge design where the top of the trackpad doesn't depress, but the bottom part does. It's pretty spongy, which isn't great. Also, if you really are serious about gaming, you probably should have a dedicated keyboard and mouse anyways. It does support a webcam if you happen to need it, but it doesn't have a privacy slider if that matters to you. And this is what the webcam and microphone quality is like. Not all that great. And then here's a photo. And the borders of the display aren't bad on the sides, but the top and bottom bezels are a bit large. I do like that it has a nice matte anti-glare screen, but I do find that the 1080p 60Hz display to be a bit washed out in terms of its colors, and that likely has to do with the bit depth of 6 bits, which results in this color banding here. Again, it's a budget laptop. But it does surprisingly have a lot of ports, which is really nice. On one side you have a full-size SD card slot and some LEDs. The other side has a headphone jack, a USB-C port, but keep in mind that is not a Thunderbolt compatible port, nor does it accept power delivery. There are also 2 USB-A ports and a full-size HDMI port, which I love, and is strangely something that is just now being added back to the professional Apple MacBook Pros. What a concept. And then finally, a barrel power plug. Unfortunately, there's no Ethernet port, so that isn't the most ideal for gaming if you want to, account for latency and stuff like that. And yeah, it took a while to download a few things on Steam. And the speakers are surprisingly loud, but they're not the greatest sounding. It's not all that full and sounds a bit hollow. And unfortunately, there's a lot of bloatware. There are pop-ups everywhere, and there are bookmarks that are already set in your browser, and they're all asking you to buy or upgrade things. It's just really annoying and tacky. But overall, the build is fine. It's plastic, and the whole thing can flex and squish. It does have a slight wedge design, which makes it a little bit thinner in the hand, but I do wish it had a little more weight on the bottom so you can open it with one hand. But this is a two-hander, boys and girls. It was actually really easy to open it up and install the upgrades. So in order to do that, I had an iFixit Tech toolkit, which had these guitar picks in this wedge butter slicer thing. To get into it, there are a few different screws on the bottom, so you'll want to keep track of where they go, and some that are hidden underneath the rubber feet that you'll need to remove with that butter wedger thingy. Everything else holding it together are just clips, so it's relatively easy to open it up with the guitar picks from the top side and scraping all along the border. When you crack it open, you'll see a few things. There's a 41 watt-hour battery. There's some heat pipes there for the processor, which is kind of nice to see. And strangely, a spot for a solid-state drive, but you can't actually install anything there because the case itself has all of these bumps and stuff like there, probably to make it more sturdy, but that prevents you from putting a drive there. Instead, it has an M.2 drive with 256 gigabytes of storage. That's far too small, so I decided to upgrade it to this 500 gigabyte SK Hynix 2280 M.2 drive. But if you play a lot of different games, I would encourage you to go for the 1 terabyte model because, 500 gigabytes can really fill up fast. And then you'll see a single 8 gigabyte stick of RAM. Now, when I was researching things, I found out that the Ryzen 5 processor works best with 2 sticks of RAM. So I added another 8 gigabyte stick of DDR4 3200 RAM. So the upgrades are so ridiculously easy to install that even some dude that hasn't built a PC in over a decade can figure it out. So how did it turn out? Well, I tried a number of games at the lowest setting, and there were some obvious conclusions. Current flagship games like Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Control were getting an average of 17 frames per second, and Halo Infinite was hitting 24 frames per second for an average. So that's not so great, and I decided that it just wasn't worth it to compare the upgraded performance with the unupgraded performance, because if it wasn't so great with the upgrade, it's probably going to be really bad for the unupgraded setup. You know what I mean. I'm not going to waste your time on that. But things started to look a lot better. When I looked at Apex Legends, it increased the performance from 23 frames per second on the upgraded setup to 40 frames per second average with the upgraded setup. That's a significant increase that made it at least playable, but still not the most ideal setup. But here is where it really shines with games like CSGO. It increased from 44 frames per second to 75 frames per second average, which is really great, and you can increase the graphics a little bit and still hit 60 frames per second on average. To be honest, it was actually really quite nice to play on this laptop. So that made me realize something. I think that makes this laptop a really great gaming option on a budget for games like Fortnite, PUBG, Valorant, Minecraft, and other less demanding games. That isn't bad if you're on a budget and want to play these types of games. But if you want to play some more recent flagship games, you're going to unfortunately have to look for a higher spec option and one that's going to cost a lot more.
Hey guys, so today I want to go ahead and do a review on this laptop. This is the Asus ROG model GU603H. And I just want to go ahead and share with you guys my experience using this over the past 7 months. Not really going to go over the specs too much because all of that can be found in I'm not going to go over the specs too much because all of that can be found in the description of the product, but more instead my experience using it, some of the things I like about it and some of the things that I don't like about it. So first and foremost, I got this laptop because I do a lot of video editing, I do a lot of traveling, and I also do some gaming on this side. So I needed a laptop that can kind of do everything, and I came across this laptop right here. Now, as you can see, first and foremost, it's got a reflective kind of look, kind of a shiny glossy black. On the back here, it's got some some air ventilations for the fans, all that stuff. Very compact. I believe this screen is around 16 inches. Go ahead and open up this laptop. We have the Windows home screen, nice high quality screen, and we also have RGB on the keys and the numbers. And as you can see here, it's like a 75% keyboard. We have all the F1 to F10. We also have the arrows on the bottom here. We also have some functions on the top like the volume button, we have the mute for the microphone and all the sorts of cool stuff, and we have the trackpad on the bottom. Now for me, the one thing I do like about it is just how big it is. It doesn't feel too cramped up on the keys. Everything is super responsive. Other than that, if we go and look on this side here, we have an Ethernet port. We have HDMI, we have a couple USB-Cs, and we have one USB, and then we have the charging port right over here. Now, if I will go ahead and talk about performance, the performance on this laptop is amazing. I mean, everything runs smoothly, especially when I am video editing and when I'm gaming. Everything works great. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the charger. So this right here is the charger. As you can see, this side right here comes right out, and this right here is the outlet, and over here is where you're gonna plug into the computer. And what I like about it is how you can disconnect these two cables and store them if you are planning on traveling. You do need to have this plugged into the wall and into the computer to really get the full, I believe, 165 hertz on your screen, because if you don't use it, then you're not going to be able to use the full 165, because this right here powers this computer. Especially when you're gaming, you definitely want to have it plugged in. So that's really important. Now, the one thing I will say that really hurts my heart about this laptop, and I'm sure it's for a lot of gaming laptops, is that it gets a little too hot. It's hard to use the keys up here because over here gets extremely hot, and I highly suggest getting a cooling fan, which I'll show you. I highly suggest getting a cooling fan like this to put underneath the laptop, because if you are somewhere that's really hot, your laptop might overheat, and this right here helps with performance, because if your computer gets too hot, then it slows down the performance. So I definitely recommend getting a cooling fan. But other than that, this laptop has been amazing. Like I said, I use it for gaming and editing, and it works amazing. Never really had any issues. If you do get a laptop, I highly suggest you get a laptop with a lot of storage if you're planning on downloading a ton of applications, because once you start filling up your drive, your computer starts slowing down, and it starts affecting a lot of programs when you use them, because it can really slow down the performance of the computer which is like a no-brainer, but just thought I'd share that. But overall, this laptop right here is great. This is the model GU603H by Asus. I love this product a lot. I do travel with it. By the way, one last thing before I leave. It is a little heavy. No, I won't lie. It's a little heavy. That might be an issue too, especially when you're traveling. If you want to travel light, this laptop might not be it. I mean, it is a little heavy, but it definitely has a lot of power, so it does make up for the heaviness of this product. But overall, like I said, guys, it's an amazing product. I travel with it quite a lot. I've been using it for the past, I'd say 6 to 12 months, and absolutely love it.